Well, hello everyone, welcome back to the ACL Displays channel. In this video I'm going to do a cleanup, a repair, possibly a repaint of a collectible item that I just received off an eBay seller. Now, what makes this particular collectible special to me is that it was one of the first figures that I had when I first started collecting. So to have this back in my collection is pretty special. Okay, so I'm going to take this downstairs, open it up and have a quick look at it, and we'll see what needs to be done. Okay, so you may have also noticed that I'm using a new microphone here that's on my shirt. This is the Boya BY-M1 Pro, and I might do a video on my Memory Flash channel, a review of this particular mic, but I'm going to be using it here first to see what it sounds like. So let's open this thing up and let's have a look. Wow, this is really cool. Now, it's like seeing an old friend again. Look at that. Oh, that's nice. Thanks for your business, Tim 1860. Okay, it's got the two guns, and I'm pretty sure everyone can see what this is now. Okay, so the Tomb Raider Diorama. Now, this is really cool to see this thing back in my collection. Gotta say, it's pretty cool. It's just as awesome as I remember. Let's take these out. Look at that. Thanks for your business. Look on the bottom too. That's very nice. But overall, the quality, it's really dusty, so it needs to be cleaned. I can see there's a little bit of an issue here going on where the foot stands. There's a lot of rubs and sort of just scuff marks on her, but she's relatively pretty good, and I think it should come up pretty nice once I give it a bit of a clean. But overall, yeah. Just to see this thing again is just really cool, and thank you, Tim 1860. The other one that I want was the jungle scene, which I think was also a 9-inch diorama. So anyhow, I'm going to address this situation. So the first thing I'm going to do here is just go around and give this a bit of a clean with some soapy water. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do before I clean this, it's got two screws at the bottom here, so I'm going to take those off and remove Lara, and then I can clean the base and clean her up as well. Overall, her body is okay, it just needs to be cleaned. Gun is a little bit bent, so I'm going to have to heat that up. Luckily nothing's broken, the hair or anything like that. The biggest concern here is actually to remove this this glue here. Now I can't remember if this thing had the pegs in the base or this just has the screws that screw in, so I think it might have just had the screws that are in there. She has a little bit of a scuff mark here. So all in all, Lara's in pretty good condition. So we have a bit of glue here on the base section here, so I'll have to remove that. Oh, that looks like an epoxy or something, so that's going to be interesting one to get rid of. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit of my history of collecting. So when I first started collecting, this is primarily what I collected. Basically the Toy Biz and Playmates and just anything I get my hands on. This was one of the first collectibles that I had, and I was just absolutely loved it. But I couldn't get some of the other ones. Now there's a couple of these sets. I think only the jungle scene was another 9-inch one, but I think the rest of them were slightly smaller, about 5-inch or 5.5 inch or something like that. So yeah, so I ended up selling this one. I'm not too sure why I did that, but anyhow, so Tomb Raider is a game that when I was growing up, playing this game was just amazing. Now, the first PC that I had, I wasn't actually able to play Tomb Raider on there because it wasn't fast enough. I had never actually played all the way through on any of the Tomb Raiders, so I think it was probably around the 2000s that I actually ended up getting back into Tomb Raider and getting all the games back and playing them. And I still playing the games now with the Tomb Raider level editor. And that's something that I will review on the Memory Flash channel at a later date. But yeah, Tomb Raider is a big part of my life, and just how big Tomb Raider was back when it first came out. I mean, it was just plastered everywhere. I remember it came with the video cards and things like that. I mean, there was just Tomb Raider signs, and it was just Tomb Raider mania back at that time. It was just unfortunate that I didn't, at that time period, I didn't have a computer that was good enough to run the Tomb Raider games. But for the time, I mean, the graphics were just incredible. I just love the way it was created and the way that it was designed. And it's just recently that I've actually got into starting to learn how to make some levels. So yeah, like I said, it's something I'll revisit and I'll be looking at in one of the Memory Flash episodes. So I've given Lara a clean up. You can see she's come out really nicely. It's removed the scuff there as well. I've just used a little bit of dishwashing liquid. There's also a little scuff here which I'll remove in a second, but the biggest issue with this is this epoxy glue here. A little bit of a curve on her leg, which might need to be heated up and re-straightened. But also I noticed there was a lot of screws that are missing. The best way probably to do this is to take off this side piece here, and that way I can sort of access that a little bit better. Okay, so I've got the sides off, and this is interesting. It's actually, I think I'm going to remove these two sections here and just have a look underneath. Okay, so yeah, a little bit of masking tape on there might have been from the factory, I'm not sure. I'm just using the back of this screw here, and this is the inside here, so you can't see it. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a clean up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape off this epoxy here, and just remove the stuff that's sort of higher than the surface of the floorboard. Okay, so I'm going to remove some of this epoxy here. I'm just going to use a small hobby knife just to remove the excess Wow, this stuff's really bad. And I mean, any little scratches I make on this, I will I can match the paint. I can put some WD-40 on it to remove it once I've got majority of this harder stuff off. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put a little bit of WD-40 onto these sections that have the this epoxy on here. I'm just going to let it sit for a little while and That will sort of dissolve it a little bit, and then I'll use a scraper and just slowly take this off the best I can. So I'm just going to keep going here and remove as much as I can, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. I've removed a lot of that epoxy glue there, so that's great, and I'll be able to match the paint on that and just go back over that, and that should cover that up. So I'll put that aside now, and the next thing we need to work on here is the bottom of the feet. You can see just how badly the epoxy is on here. So first of all, I'm going to sort of scrape some of this off with the scrape, and then I'm going to look at possibly a little bit of acetone might be able to remove some of that. Okay, so pretty amazing what I've got away with here, just using the scalpel here, just by scraping along the bottoms here, and you can see that's removed majority of the thicker stuff off here, and I mean that's thin enough that, you know, when you put it down you're not going to see any of that. So there's a little bit of a mark here, so I'm just going to use a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and get rid of that. That's looking good. She doesn't have any more scuffs that I can see. She's pretty clean looking now. The next thing we're going to do is figure out what we're going to do about the gun here. Now this is a little bit too bent, so I'm going to have to use a heat gun on this one and straighten this up. Now some plastics work with just putting them in hot water, but some plastic doesn't. Usually the gummier plastics you'll need a heat gun. This plastic is a little bit more hard and rigid, but I'm just going to put the heat gun on this and straighten that back up. Okay, so what I've done is I've heated this up here until you can see the plastic's really flimsy. So I'm going to just position this how I want the gun to be, which is straight. Just going to let this cool down. I should be okay. And one of the other things I might change too on her is her spear gun in the game. She actually has the yellow barrel, so that's something I might look at. Also, I'm pretty sure this section, this yellow section, is more of a gold. So if I've got a gold, brushed gold section, I might fit that on there as well. Okay, the gun's straightened up. She's looking pretty good now. The next thing I need to look at is the leg, and you can see how sort of bowed that leg part is. So I think I'm just going to fit this onto this section here. Just put the screws in it, and then see how she stands. Okay, so I've got Lara back on the raft here, and you can see how much of an angle. That looks really, really terrible. So I think at this stage, first of all, I'm going to heat this leg up a little bit. And what's interesting here is there's a small little metal rod section that's coming out here, and I think that actually went into this foot here. But there's some other holes that have been drilled here. I'm not sure if they're actually... What am I going to do is I'm going to jump on Google and have a quick check and see what's going on here. So originally this had a angle section that fits here, and then the front foot sort of goes down on an angle, and that would explain how Lara stays up straight. Okay, so I've 3D printed a new angle block section. You can see that white section underneath that foot. So you can see now how straight Lara stands up because of that little block section underneath the foot. So that's just made a huge difference. So I'll paint that at the end. And one of the other things that I need to address is the tank here on the harpoon gun, which is in game. That tank is yellow, and also the handle was sort of like a wood colour. I'm going to go ahead and start painting this up, then come back with the final result. Okay, so I've mixed up some black and brown paint here to try and match this this decking, and I've just put a little bit on this section here that was pretty scratched up, and instantly that's just covered all those scratches up. It's not exact perfect match, it's pretty close, and so I'm just going to go through and cover up all these other marks here. So I'm almost like doing sort of a makeup treatment, I guess, on this. And although there is a little bit of difference you can see in the from the paint from the original to the thing, it sort of adds some more of a highlight to the wood rather than a paint. That's working out really well. I'm just going to give that a little bit more and cover up some of the more sort of deeper parts. So that's really all I wanted to do with that. I don't want to repaint the whole thing, I just want to cover that up. So that's looks a lot cleaner, so I'm going to let that dry. Next thing I'm going to look at is painting Lara's gun here. Especially that tank, because that's really annoying me. I sort of want this to look more sort of like the game. I'm going to mix up some yellow and start painting this tank. Now actually, before I get to Lara, let's paint the shoe section here. So let's just give this a little bit of a clean first. So that looks pretty clean, so I'm going to go start painting that. Okay, so I'm just going to let that dry, and then do maybe another 2 coats of that. Okay, so for Lara's gun, I'm going to mix up some. Oh, actually, the first thing I'm going to do is I need to do her handles, just to make it a little bit more accurate to the game. So it's a little bit of a section here you can see. So I'm going to find some light brown paint and paint those handles. I'm going to use a slightly lighter brown here. This is the NATO brown XF68. I love this brown. I use this in pretty much a lot of projects that I do. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So, it might be hard to see on the camera there, but that's just added a little bit brown just at the bottom section of the handle there. So I only want her handle to come to about here. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry, and I'll probably give that another coat. Okay, so I've got some XF3 flat yellow here. I think this should be okay. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to reassemble this diorama section here. It's missing a lot of screws, so going to have to find some screws. Have a look. Okay, so I'm missing 2 screws here, so I have to find 2 small screws. Okay, so there we go. We've got found 2 screws here. That should be fine for that. The side sections all installed, so we have that part of the diorama complete. Next thing I need to look at is cutting a little brushed gold section here for the belt buckle. I know in the game this is sort of a brushed gold. Now I don't have any brushed gold wrap, but I do have some chrome vinyl wrap, and what I might do is actually cut a square section of this to fit over the top, but I might actually use a gold pen and a gold paint pen, if I've got one, and that should give a sort of almost like a metallic brush look, but it should have a little bit of a chromish look behind it. I'm also going to put 4 little screw holes in the corner of the vinyl wrap to sort of give it a sort of a belt buckle-ish look. So I might put the gold on first, and then take it over to the laser cutter, and then. Okay, so the tank is still a little bit wet, but that's pretty much the that's side of things done. Made it more game accurate with the yellow tank. Added the more sort of metallic looking belt buckle, and so I mean, this thing's pretty much ready to put back onto the stance. Okay, so I've got the brown 3D printed section back in. Had to find a longer screw for that one, and that one's fitted through, and you can see that's got rid of all that rubbish that was around there. There's still a little bit of white stuff in here, but I think that can be just removed. That's looking 10 times better than what it did when we first got it. Removed all the glue, put the screws in, and just wait for the tank to dry on Lara's harpoon gun, and I'll be able to fit this back on. Well, that's it for this episode. Hopefully this project helps you out in some way. Maybe it jogs your memory into some collectibles that you remember that you once had. Anyhow, leave a comment in the comment section, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. And until next time, see you on the next project.